There we go. Now to share with the other page, and I need to know how to do that. YouTube. Okay. Here it is. I had to restart completely and even restart the computer. I don't know. It seems like the camera was not initialized properly. I don't know why. I haven't done any changes. Everything looked normal. It just didn't work right. So, take two. And I'll just take the time to do a little something here. I'll share the link. Share the link. Again, new link, live show. Here we go. So that everybody knows where to go in case they don't know. Here we go. And here we go. And there we go. And finally, here we go. This. Like this. Here. And here we go, guys. We are now here. I don't know why, but one of those things sometimes, you know. And the fact that also I'm using a insider machine. I'm not using an official, um, you know, official stable Windows 11. I'm on the Canary build of Windows 11, which makes me see things that are going to happen many months from now. So it's probably not the best idea in the world to run on an insider machine. But now it's working, and that's the important thing. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the live show after a little glitch here. We are live once a month on the first Saturday with the live show here. And we have the special Zoom for those that contribute. So, in between each Zoom, anybody that contributes to the channel gets to be in the Zoom. This month will be a Zoom on March the 23rd, and it will be a live listening session. That means everybody needs to have their radios on, and via Zoom, we'll be tuning the bands. It's going to be a tuning session with a bunch of guys, and hope that you can join in. All you have to do is to give a little something either here through the super chat or on a video that maybe you liked and you give a little something, or you can also give through PayPal, which is this email for those that want to contribute. And you will be automatically in for the March 23rd Zoom listening session where we'll tune the bands together. So, hi everyone. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We are here every first Saturday of the month, and we got a few things to talk about this month. And we'll, of course, have hopefully a lot of fun and listen to the radio, answer questions, whatever. Well, I'm looking at different things here, number stations. I'm looking at HF Underground for any pirate activity. So 15580 right now. I'm listening to a pretty good signal from Voice of America. So we'll see what happens and how it goes today. Hope you enjoy the show. There's a beautiful chat room if you want to join in and be with wonderful people that will be there to entertain you, answer questions maybe before I do, or just have fun and chat, whatever radio topic you want to chat. And of course, after this is over, we are on Facebook, official Shortwave, official SWL channel is on Facebook. 3,500-ish members there. And it's pretty active. Lots of people posting what they're listening to and all of that. And here on the channel, we're almost at 46,000 subscribers, which is pretty amazing for a shortwave dedicated channel. So hope that everybody has fun today. Hello, everyone. And it's going to be, I think, an interesting show. So Tasso, nice to have you here. Tasso V. John Hummel Newell, nice to have you here. VE5JHN, nice to have you on board. Trevor, nice to have you here. Jeff King, nice to have you on board. Michael, nice to have you here. Mike WX50, nice to have you on board. Danielson, nice to have you here. DX Winger, nice to have you on board. David's Radio Room, nice to have you here. Ricky, nice to have you from Alberta. Sheldon Harvey from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Mohammed, nice to have you on board. Do you have a Geiger counter for your radiation? I would be afraid to turn it on here with all the electronics. Joseph, nice to have you here. I have audio. You should be having audio, so let's hope. Key W1161. No, I'm not ready for the silent key part yet. What else do we have? So check your settings, Joseph. Check your volume on YouTube. Maybe YouTube's volume's down because you have your volume on your PC. You have the volume on the YouTube app or on the YouTube screen, or just restart your browser and check. He got it. Yes. Master Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming. Nice to have you here. Thanks for the tip. Donc, bonjour, Ricky from Calgary. It's cold and snow Calgary. Here it's going to be, according to the Weather Channel, the warmest March we've ever seen. So this is going to be interesting. And as of now, it's actually going to be quite warm. We're reaching the 60s at some point next week. No snow, or almost no snow on the ground. It's just crazy, the weather we're having right now. So, John K6RXD, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Antenny France, nice to have you here. Tasso says it's rainy Queens, New York. Yeah, kind of off and on, light rain here right now. Mike WX50 even changed to 1080p, so I'm in high definition. I'm not sure I do like the idea of my face in high definition, but that's being in front of a camera. Tarek, nice to have you here from Cairo, Egypt. D. Matthews, nice to have you on board from the UK. M7MVD, nice to have you here, Dave. What else do we have? Let me just go through here. Okay, off license. Nice to have you here. No need to be sorry, Bobby. It's okay. Rodrigo, nice to have you here from Brazil. Nice to have you listening to Shortwave and listening to Radio Nacional de Amazonia with football on 11780. So that's pretty cool. I like the excitement when you listen to, like, I don't understand Portuguese or Spanish much, and when Spain has sports also, and but boy, you can hear the excitement. You don't really know exactly, but you're just excited because of the way that it's going. So thanks Rob's radio channel for the tip. Thank you, Mike, for the donation via PayPal. Thank you, D. Matthews, for the tip. Much appreciated. Make sure, for all of you that are giving me something, make sure that I have your email. It's extremely important so that I can reach you with the link to the March 23rd event, where I'll be sending you the link to the live listening session. And make sure you got a good radio and antenna ready to operate. It's going to be interesting to see what everybody hears from different parts of the world, and all of that, doing that together, is going to be kind of cool. Tarek says today propagation pretty good, picking up Radio New Zealand on both 17675 and 13755. Pretty cool. Yeah, there's a contest. It's the ARRL contest, SSB contest. So there's a lot of hams going on right now. Rodrigo is listening to Radio Estadio Español on 17715. Mark Oberg, nice to have you here. Where are you located? Nice to have a new viewer. Mike says, I like the Realistic DX160 speaker above. Yeah, well, so this was a donation from a viewer, and he actually made modifications on it. And it's been there in front of me for months. And I'm like, it looks cool and it works great. I really need to find a way to put it up there. And it came to me that right now I have the realistic speaker on the ICOM, but my Kenwood 5000, the speaker that's in the radio is not plugged in the circuit board. So I always need to put, a speaker, an external speaker, for it to work. And that's where I thought, oh, that'll be a great use. I'll use it with the Kenwood R5000. It's going to be kind of nice. So the Kenwood R5000 is going to have that realistic speaker working, which is pretty nice. John K6RXD, thank you for the tip, and nice to have you here from California. Art, nice to have you on board. K2ADC in New Jersey. Shortwave Archive, nice to have you on board from Colorado. Tibor Ostrowski, nice to have you here from Medicine Hat, Alberta. KB7RQQ, nice to have you here from Washington State. Nice to have you here, Todd. Aiden Noon, nice to have you on board. EI7JC, nice to have you here. Darren Rogers from Long Island, New York. Mark is in Southeast Massachusetts. Cool. Welcome aboard. David's Radio Room sent a PayPal donation too. Cool. No problem. All of that is taken into account. Radio Front TV. Nice to have you here from Germany. Nice to have you here, Robin. Rob's a radio channel, so thank you so much for the donation. Nick Amendout, nice to have you here from Romania. Steve, nice to have you on board from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Andy New, nice to have you here. M7CUN from the UK. So, Rob, you're taking that grounding apart this weekend. You're going to have a lot of fun. It's a very complex radio. Al, nice to have you here from Seacliff, New York. Skylar Phoenix, nice to have you here from Colorado. And nice to have all of you here. And I'm already down the chat. So thanks everybody for the donations, by the way. And once again, like I said, for those that are giving donations until March, the day before, I will accept donations up to March 22nd for this event. It's the Zoom live listening session. Make sure your radios are ready. We're going to have fun with radio. Okay, it's at 20 hours UTC. So, welcome everyone. First of the things that I want to talk about is make sure that you listen into your favorite stations, maybe the unusual stations you're getting this year in the wintertime that you didn't hear before or only here in winter. Why? A month left for our schedules. So this means that we are right now into the B23 schedule season, which is the winter schedules. That ends on the last day of the last Saturday of March, starting Sunday, which I believe is March the 31st. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, Sunday, March the 31st, we will be on the new A24 season schedules. That's the schedules for the summertime. So you got a month left to enjoy your favorite stations. I'm totally enjoying BBC on 11 meters, 25,900. Most of the days it's been a great signal here in Montreal. And of course, a lot of other stations also that you can hear in there, like Radio Japan, stuff like that I listen to here. Cheers, everybody. So, it's time to make sure that you tune in. And of course, there will be that little moment where we're going to have some mix up in the schedules coming soon. This is normal. I mean, we get to a point where we're a little lost in, when we start a new schedule season. It's going to be very interesting also as we get through and getting close to that to see the frequencies that some stations will choose. I liked that for another reason is that, yeah, you might lose a station that isn't targeting your area, but that you're hearing this winter and you're happy, like my BBC World Service in the daytime. But sometimes the frequencies and times chosen in the different target areas might favor new stations in the summertime. So we'll see what happens and what stations are there. I'm hoping BBC keeps 12095 for its 03 hours or 4 hours. I think it's 04 hours UTC schedule. That one's from, I believe, Madagascar, and it just packs in an amazing signal in the summer. So that gives me a BBC listening feed at night. Of course, it will be I say it will be the return of Radio New Zealand for me, but I've been listening a couple of times this week. It's kind of starting to get, even if it's a very high frequency, it's starting to get decent signal here. Which is nice. It shows that we're really in the high phase of solar activity. So lots of interesting stuff. Radio Thailand has been amazing here. I mean, 13750 has been rock solid, almost like local station. Pretty amazing. So this is pretty nice. So lots of fun. And so 1 month left. Enjoy your schedules while you can for now. Dave, nice to have you here. WA1UJA from New Hampshire. Tarek is picking up WWCR on 13845 and Radio Marti on 13820 with his new Malahide DSP2. So you're studying it. Cool, Rob. VA3JPX, nice to have you on board. Shortwave Archive, if anyone's interested in the Xing TWR from Eswatini from North America. In North America, tried 15105 and 1905 UT. Tune in 5 minutes before for the interval signal. Yeah, I need to check that one. I haven't heard that to TWR for a long time. I wonder if they have a new. I was thinking the other day about that because I have a TWR Swaziland QSL card. but now Swaziland is Eswatini. They changed their name. So I wonder if they have a new QSL card with Eswatini in it rather than Swaziland. It would be kind of nice to have both a QSL from Swaziland and a QSL from Eswatini. So cool, Rob. I want to see that. It's going to be fun to watch the video. I got to make mine work a little more. It's been standing there, not doing anything. I haven't done videos with it for a while. Mark Elford, nice to have you here. Dave, ICOM 7300 and AL 811H amplifier. Pretty cool. Tarek has VOA and Hausa from Sao Tome, 13750. Playlist. I live in a big city surrounded by electronics. My XH Data D808 receiver does quite well, especially if I use the antenna that comes with it. Do you think that the loop antenna has a chance to strengthen the signal and penetrate the noise more? Do you recommend any specific models? If not, are there any other alternatives? The MLA30 would be a great antenna for you. If you have noise, it will actually have you enjoy a lot more stations, probably, because you'll be able to pick up some that you might right now hear that are kind of weak in the noise will maybe pop up from that noise. MLA30, if you look at online, there's a few places. You got to be careful where you choose it. It comes with a biased T little box because it needs to be powered. But the MLA30 could be a very, very good choice for you. What else do we have? Rob says something very interesting about the Grande satellite. They put RF belt into the amplifier area. Storms, radios, and cats. Nice to have you here, and no problem. So frequency for TWR was 15105 kilohertz. Blast Owl, enjoying your number station videos. Do you think those stations are targeted at older spies, decades in the field? Maybe younger generation spies are using digital modes. There's, I think today it's a lot more probably kind of a diplomatic thing. So the stations come on and it maybe an embassy somewhere is receiving the signals. You need to be in the field when you need to be covert, when you need to hide yourself. So like in a war or things like that, that's where a spy number station might need to address a field agent somewhere. And maybe there still does have, that possibility. I don't know. We know it's a mysterious world that we don't know that much about. And I know for a fact that some of those that possibly were close to that can't really say anything, even after they don't work there anymore. So, I think most of it probably is like send information to embassies. And it's obvious that they're targeting areas because apart from the Cuban number station and a couple of others that are Russian, but that come from Cuba, because there's a few that are actually transmitted from Cuba also. Those are targeting probably a lot more North America, but for the rest, most of them are targeting Europe and Asia, from what we see. And like I said, I think it's for the most part, probably in most places, it's being sent to an embassy somewhere. But you never know. There could be some agent somewhere. And those new stations that I've been receiving lately, the 10551 station standing just Sierra Sierra Tango all the time. 5198 that has the two different call signs in the evening. It's kind of mysterious. What are those? Now they seem to be quite new because if you go and search, you don't see anything. You don't see anything listed before this year on these stations, so it's kind of interesting. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting here. What do we have? T. Rostroski, our puppy hate the cable to the MLA30, bought a new Mega Loop MLA30, way better antenna. Not all MLA30 are equal. This new one is noticeably better. So okay, interesting. How long had you had the other one? Just out of curiosity. I should buy a new one just to see. Robert Varner, nice to have you here. KC2TEL in rainy New Jersey. Tarek says TWR's QSL from Eswatini has the note you picked up. TWR from the Kingdom of Eswatini now. Okay, that's cool. Glenn Danzler, nice to have you on board from South Carolina. Spent the day rerouting and knitting up the cable mess. Yeah, from time to time, it's a pretty good idea to do so. I've actually been doing it a lot more since I have my ham station here, because you notice that when you have 20, 30, 40 feet of wire lying on the ground, well, picks up RF. The Shortwave Archive heard Voice of Turkey last night on 9700 using the old internal signal and interval signal. Oh, really? You mean the one with the piano? Because they had, what, 2, 3? I like the old one. I like the one with the piano before. Mark Oberg says, I've had good luck in an urban area with one of those PC board antennas that's in a weatherproof housing. Yeah, you're probably talking about that. What's the man, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's that little telescopic with a board on it. That's what they're using actually at the U20 SDR in the Netherlands. Keegan DXer, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. Just returned from lunch, grocery shopping. Cool. Mark has a couple of loops as well. Pretty cool. D. Matthews, I use an RSPDX software to find radio with the MLA30 Plus on my roof. The noise between approximately 9500 and 11500 is off the scale. Any suggestions on how to defeat this or find what's causing it? Have you, first of all, tried to just rotate the loop to minimize that noise on that range if you can? Now it's on your roof, so you need to get on the roof to do it. Maybe you can null it out, but if you can't null it out, that's interesting because that means it's somewhere around you, or it's difficult. Take a portable radio. I think the best thing to do is, if you've got noise around that range, take a portable shortwave radio and go around your yard, go around your neighborhood, maybe even. Sometimes you'd be surprised how far noise can come from. Because I noticed here recently that from day to day the noise floor isn't the same, and I noticed because I usually on the Yesu, I'll play with the level. So here goes. I'll play with the levels, and I'll play with the levels to put them like, just to see kind of a grass at the bottom, and then you'll see the lines of the different stations and the waterfall. And I noticed that I don't touch anything, and one day I turn on the Yesu and I see that same setting, there's like full of noise, and I got to reduce the gain of the waterfall. So it's day to day, it isn't the same. Some days there's something, some days that are creating noise that some days are not. It's very weird we're getting into this crazy time of noise on the radio, and I say that all the time. The real killer of shortwave, for most part, is noise, and I'm sure a lot of people have abandoned because of that, much more than and it all goes together. If people abandon because of noise, Stations get less letters and less correspondence, and it's a wheel that turns in the wrong direction. Chuck, nice to have you here. N5 KVO, and from South Texas, nice to have you on board, my friend. What else do we have here? Just gonna try to find where I was because I lost my space. So here we go. Skyler, because of you, I now have a Texan PL330 990, and at my place in the mountains, A365 and CC Skywave SSB2 for the car. And he said, I had to get the Ethon 750 on desk while I play Star Trek Online. John Earnshaw, nice to have you here, says RTTY station sending RY all the time. Then numbers. What frequency? What else do we have? Skylar says trying the new GA800 for indoor. What's your take on that? I can't say anything really because I've never owned one, and I've seen some people say that they like it. I've seen some people say they hate it. So it's kind of the difficult. I don't know what I don't know what to really say about it. Butterbean, nice to have you here from Georgia. Christian Marcoux, salut, nice to have you on board from Ontario. Darren Rogers, hearing music on 15110. Hard to tell what country it's from. So if we look at the schedules on 15110, frequencies, and let's go and find 15110. You are probably hearing Algeria. It's the only station at this time. It's iAfrica FM. That station is usually good on a lot of the frequencies, and it's from 20 to 23 UTC. It's actually the only station broadcasting right now on 15110. So you're listening to Algeria, iAfrica FM. It should be in Arabic. And mixed in, there's some French, by the way. I've actually stumbled upon several French language news bulletins on it. Volts, nice to have you here from Latvia. Wish me luck. Tried to pass the exam for AM license next Tuesday. Cool. That's going to be fun. I'm sure you're going to pass it. You're going to be okay. And maybe we'll have a chat on the air. Who knows? Pretty cool. The old piano interval. Wow. I haven't heard that one in a long time. That reminds me of the 80s, that piano interval signal. Semester players, radio, television, gaming. Nice to have you here. Yeah, that's probably the mini whip. I think that's what he's talking about, the PA0RDT mini whip. Where it's very, 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 very low noise. It seems to be very surprising. I mean, the U20 in the Netherlands uses that, and I mean, I'm amazed at what you get on that radio. It's just crazy. Yeah, Butterbean, it's the ARRL SSB contest, and so there's a lot of hams on it. So Rob also had to order tooth belt for it. Okay. My Grundig, last time I used it, I heard a snap inside, and since then the big roller doesn't. I can still tune the bands and everything, but the big roller for the frequency doesn't turn anymore. So I have to kind of know where I am. So I have to tune around a signal that I know what it is in order to know what band I'm on before tuning around. So I guess that's something that would have to be checked. Tom Montgomery, nice to have you here. RY491, so many shortwave signals from China. Wonder what power they use. Full scale here in UK nearly all day. There's a lot. I mean, if you, me and Sheldon were one day we're looking at, all the frequencies used at the same time by China. And that includes China radio, the national radio, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, the jamming. And China will have easily several dozen transmitters on 24 hours a day on shortwave. It's crazy. I just can't imagine the number of shortwave transmitters they have, which of course always makes me say, if shortwave's dead, why does China have dozens and dozens of shortwave transmitters all the time? So I suspect that they are running probably the big gun powers. Most of the CRI from China, most of the CNR, most of the jammers that I've seen are all rated at 500 kilowatts. So it's like they're using a lot of power. Then would explain why they're easy to hear everywhere. And this is the time, March, April, same for like September, October. It's that time where you get all of these signals from China coming in. It's pretty amazing. A visit from God. Oh man. Oh, 350. Okay. That's interesting. Oh, 350. What else do we have? John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. LVR Steelworks, nice to have you on board. KW61 said Earth Sky said that the super sunspot moved away from Earth, so shortwave could be better. Yeah, but there's a big one coming. Should be appearing either tomorrow or Monday. There's the rover there's on Mars has it's a mast cam, but it has very low resolution. It has only 90 pixels across, and it's only meant to be used as a measure of sunlight on the surface of the planet. But when sunspots are big enough, it can actually see them. And to see them with such a crappy camera means that the sunspot need to be huge. And actually, they were saying that they see a huge sunspot that's just about to come to our side with that mass cam. So hang on, something big is just about to turn the corner. And you know what? That huge sunspot, which I did see because I have the solar eclipse glasses that I ordered because of the total solar eclipse we'll have here on April 8th. So I'm getting ready for that. Um, I actually used my solar glasses to look at the sun this weekend. I could see it with the solar glasses. It was crazy. The sunspot was huge. So another big one's coming. And also, what's interesting about that sunspot that's departing, that was huge and crossed the surface, created a lot of. It's actually created quite a few flares, including the strongest flare yet of Cycle 25 X 6.3. It was half the size of the Carrington event sunspot. So we talked about it in the 1850s, 1859, something like that. There's a huge solar flare that created an amazing display of auroras and set fire to, um, telegraph stations around the world because it just induced so much currents. That sunspot that we had now was half the size of that spot. So that means it was pretty big, pretty big. Ricky says, I feel as if this season I'm having to relocate and rotate the MLA 30 plus a lot more than before. The right spot and orientation now might not work tomorrow or even later today. Yeah, I will need to reinstall my MLA 30 because if you guys would see it on the balcony, it's been in the same wooden broomstick for at least 4 years. So now the broomstick is, of course, with the rain and all the weather outside, the broomstick is starting to look pretty shady, and the it's bent a little bit like this because of the wind. So when the weather gets interesting, actually maybe even this week or in a couple of weeks, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to reinstall it. But before I reinstall it in the same location, I will do what you just said. I will be testing a few different spots to see how it performs. Because it's noisier than it was when I installed it 4 or 5 years ago. Um, and I'm wondering if maybe there could be a better place to install it now. So I'll be checking that. So Sweatcats, wow, cool. For context, with an HF rig on board a Challenger 300 airplane. Cool. That must be fun. Andy knew the Malahit DSP2 has a remarkable noise reduction. It really is very impressive. Marvin Motz, good morning from the Japan Islands. Frustrated that almost all English I hear on SDR Play setup is from Radio China. Yeah, you're in the area where that is pretty crazy. The total eclipse is April the 8th, 2024. Sweatcats, not 4. It's April 8th. Skyler Phoenix, you said you like the ATS 25 series, but what about the Malahite DSP SDR? Well, I have a Chinese one that works decently well, but I don't have, the official ones. There's the new one today that the DSP2. Apparently, even the Chinese versions are licensed, so you have the full menus and the full coverage, even on the Chinese ones. I might be tempted. It has kind of an interesting portable type form factor to it that I like. I might be tempted to check that out. Um, we'll see. So cool, Darren, and that's cool also because they were Algeria didn't have any shortwave transmitters for a while, and now they have brand new shortwave transmitters, so they have that station back from Algeria directly, which is pretty cool. What else do we have? John Beckham, what do you think of the new XH Data D608 weather band? I believe that is the model number. It's is yellow color and is truly sensitive on the shortwave bands. Yeah, I don't have one. I would have to order one. Maybe I should check into. I got several emergency type radios here. Maybe I've heard a lot of people saying that they enjoyed the shortwave part of it, that it was pretty good. I need to order one maybe to check it out. John, Tampa, Florida. Nice to have you here. Valts, I haven't been paying much attention to transceivers previously. It seems that there is nothing similar to FTDX10, but for VHF, UHF, ICOM 9700 seems similar, but seems dated. Yeah, I've made a choice here because a friend of mine, when he got his ham license, decided to buy a transceiver that had both HF and VHF, UHF capabilities. And I thought if I wanted to do VHF, UHF, which is really not a priority for me, except for very specific things like maybe, work satellites, that would be kind of cool. I personally thought I would get a separate VHF, UHF transceiver and deal with the fact that I have two radios, one for HF and one for the upper frequencies. So It all depends because, I don't know, maybe you're the kind of guy that would like to have an all-in-one. And, let's face it, even if you buy one that is a older model, um, honestly, the difference in performance with all these radios today is so small. When somebody tells me why I picked the FTDX10, it's much more of a train of thought that is not necessarily all the way into, oh, it's one of the best out there. It's more of well, I don't have a Yisu, and it is rated really well, and I didn't need VHF UHF for now. It goes up to what I want, which is 6 meters VHF. And I could have taken the ICOM 7300, which would have cost me probably at least $500 less, which is a decent radio that everybody's happy with. But I went for it because also it was one of the things that I taught is you're spending a lot of money, and this is not something you do every year. I don't buy a $2,000 radio every year. Let's go for something good, something that you like, and the features I like too, and the fact that I could put an external screen to it was also a positive thing for me. And of course, it's rated, highly rated. It's a very complex, choosing a transceiver. It all depends what you want to do. If you want to have an all-in-one that goes up to the UHF range, it's fine. It's fine. But my decision was taken to, well, let's have two separate rigs. If one day I do want to do serious VHF UHF, I have a little Yisu FT 65 here, which suits my need for what I do right now. Covers VHF UHF. If I want something serious for the VHF UHF, I'll buy a separate rig for it. Joseph has nothing on 15110 over in California. What else do we have? Okay. Tesso ordered one of those Midland weather radios from Midland. It is the WR120B model. I have to find a spot for it, but you have NOAA Weather in Canada or your version of it. And do you own any? Yeah, I've got the I've got a unit in one which was given to me. It's a radio that was owned by a friend's dad, and the that one is, I've unplugged it for some reason the other day, but that one was pretty much always there. And I got another one. I don't know if I can find it yet. Here, I need to put it back in action. I need to put this back in action. Actually, I think I have batteries here. Let me check it out. Which I haven't talked much about, but this one is pretty nice, and it is a full-scale weather. There you go. There you go. This one, which is the Reticus, with same digital weather, all hazards and everything alert radio. And this one shares, actually, it seems to be I wonder if this is not what Uniden has also used, because it's exactly like one of the Uniden emergency weather band radios. And this has the full same messages. So when they send the alerts, you know what it is: tornado, thunderstorm, high winds, whatever. It shows up here. So, but I need to use it. There is one major flaw on it. It's the darn manual that came with it, which is the crappiest thing that doesn't explain it well at all. I actually went online and found this guy that said that manual does not is crap. It's not right. And I immediately noticed, because when I started programming it and everything, it was like, no, the manual isn't correct. That doesn't work. And I had to start going online, and I found this guy that was on a forum somewhere that he actually detailed for others the ways to program it and do the things that you want to do with it. And I had to follow his programming, which I thought, well, you know what? This probably needs a video to also explain to everybody how it works. That's the flaw. The manual is the crappiest thing in the world, but it has all the features and seems to do what it's supposed to do quite well. So I need to check it out and install this somewhere also. But I think it's definitely very, very important to have one, especially when you live in a place where it's really bad. um John Mickham has Radio Marti on 6030 coming out loud lately. Yeah, well, it's directed to Cuba, so you're close to it. You're pretty much in the target zone. What else do we have? Sweatcats has always been April 8th. It's April 8th. What else do we have? Shortwave Archive and making a Google My Maps of current and former shortwave transmitter sites. I count 16 transmitter sites from China. Well, I'm not surprised. And each transmitter site must have loads of transmitters. Mike ordered some Eclipse glasses too, waiting for them to arrive. The only thing we got to, cross our fingers is have a sunny day. No clouds in the sky. Ain't envy. And 8WJZ. Nope, they aren't giving up on shortwave, that's for sure. Absolutely. Trevor, do you know what constant weak beeping sound on 9455 kilohertz during active times? I can hear both WRMI and a weak beeping sound in the background. My guess would be that 9455 is jammed by Cuba. Because I think 9455 is directed for, let me see, do I see the 9455 WRMI is directed to Central America. So that's why. All of the WRMI frequencies that are for Central South America, they are the ones that are jammed. Like 9955 is jammed, 9455 is jammed, and there's a few others. The ones that usually aren't jammed are the ones that are directed towards North America or Europe. But anything from WRMI that is pretty much to Central South America, Cuba puts a jammer, and I'm pretty sure you're hearing the tones you're hearing are the jamming from Cuba. Storm Rangers and Cats. John Beckham, China's given up on shortwave because they still make many different types of shortwave models. Yep, they haven't given up, and it shows that check it out, Indie New, for the DSP2. Yeah. Anthony Friends, do you know what the signals are that go right to left sometimes in a squiggly line in the 15,000 kilohertz band? I heard they were drift buoys, but not sure. So it depends what you mean in those. If you look at the ones that are really, it's like lines at an angle that repeat themselves in a waterfall, for example. I don't know if I can check one here. Here, that's one here. So here on my display, that's in 3D. Let's just do. So I don't know if you can see the lines here. I'm on 13500. Those are, that's CODAR. And CODAR is a type of radar that checks for ocean currents and speed of the ocean currents, the height of waves. It's really a ocean dynamic type radar where it checks the different movements of the ocean. So if it looks like that, that's what it is. And for those that I get asked all the time, sometimes you see one that just crosses the whole frequency range when you're on a SDR. These are ionosounds, which are propagation beacons. They sweep across the whole shortwave spectrum. Sometimes some of them go way above 30 megahertz. And so a computer analyzes the maximum usable frequency of the ionosphere thanks to those radars. Those are actually sweeping across very, very often. Jean Arash, nice to have you here, says, but a Ethon Elite satellite works well, but with just a telescopic antenna, it's hard to receive ham radio. Where can I buy a indoor loop antenna? The best place is to buy an MLA30 and buy it from online. You'll have to buy it online on one of the websites. Like if you go on Amazon, there are some Amazon.ca MLA30 loop. Just make sure you've got the real MLA30 loop, not the one that ends with just bare wires. One that has the connectors, the SMA connectors to it. That looks like the real deal much more. I'm just going to open the door. I'm hearing Paul the cat meowing. So, and Mr. Paul the cat is here. There's Mr. Paul the cat. Da, 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 da. Yes. So, hello, everybody. Can say hi to Paul. Mr. Paul is extremely, extremely effective since Mignon died. I don't know if it's because he feels like he's alone or something, but it's crazy. So, Mr. Paul, saying hello to everybody. You can use the MLA30 indoors, and a lot of people have a good performance out of the MLA30 using them indoors. So let me just go back up. There we go. Okay. Yeah, if it goes through the whole waterfall, it's Iona sound. They usually sweep the whole spectrum. What receiver is under the realistic speaker? Oh, it's not a receiver. There's the speaker sits on a power supply, and under the power supply is the ICOM ICRE 500. Yeah, and definitely nice little weather band radio, and it was not very expensive too on Amazon, like $30 or something, 35. Anthony Franz bought that weather radio for his daughter. Cool. Yep, specific area message encoder. Tess, so noticed yesterday it's is a bit of a learning curve to program it. It works out of the box, but I'm having a hard time with lowering the volume on the siren. Yeah, I know that siren is something. The first time I heard it, I was like, whoa, I'm going to wake up the neighbors with that. Shelly, nice to have you here from South Central Pennsylvania. Storms Radios and Cats has the Midland WR120 and a Radio Shack weather radio. The only problem with the RS unit is it doesn't have the same encoding as a Skywarn Storm Spotter. I rely on Midland and radar apps. KW61 says $27 XH data. D608WB has a good weather radio. Excellent medium wave shortwave also. So yeah, it's more complicated than it should be, definitely. But it works. Danny, shortwave and Radio DX. Nice to have you on board. Mark, China, big country, many rural areas, definitely. Danny, shortwave has a very good welding mask to use for viewing the eclipse. Cool. John Ernst has been using Ethon E5 for portable out in the car, and I'm impressed. Have a DX394, and it's got a Yaesu FT2000 and FT897, FT817, FTM400D. Lots of radios. Don Royal, nice to have you here. WA7330 is WL, and it's got his Uniden SDS 100. There's some cool stuff like the CB here, the 980 SSB from Uniden has some great as a great feature of weather alert, and I left it on once, and we had thunderstorms coming, and it popped up the siren. Everything was kind of cool. You got a lot of devices today to have at least the basic form of alert that you can listen to. Yeah, CC Skywave SSB does have weather band. Mr. Paul the cat is wanting some attention. So everybody gets a radio. Skyler Phoenix, how did you figure out some specific radar is jamming you? What do you mean exactly? Some when you were talking about the broadcast, like WRMI broadcasts? It's just a known fact, and by the type of sound, also, you know where it's from. You get used to hearing the types of jammers, and by the sound they make, you kind of get to the point of, oh, that's from Cuba. Ron Seal, nice to have you on board. Oh, absolutely, Tasso. In many, many areas, these radios are extremely important. That's why I find very short-sighted the decision from many to like discontinue some of the some of the um, sorry, I just am surprised at something here. Some of the I don't know what I was talking about. I just saw something because I was looking at preamp for the number stations, and you guys know that on 10551, I posted. Let's put it here. 10551. So there's nothing right now. I posted the SST being sent out, or on that frequency, and I see here that in 38 minutes, which is in at 21:58, it says that M23 number station from Moscow on 10551, which is kind of interesting because it's the same frequency. Huh. Okay. Al Sam, nice to have you here. Everybody saying hello to Paul. Nothing's better than a radio and a cat. Mark says meows from his 3 cats. R1491. Anyone heard the screaming Nazi rubbish about 7 megahertz SSB, probably from Ukraine? Creepy stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening, especially around like 7050, 7060 kilohertz. So, yep, Denny Shortwave, it is. It's the old speaker that was to match the DX160. It was given to me by one of the viewers on the channel. And he actually modified it a little bit to improve the audio and put a better cable coming out of it to plug into the radios. Yeah, 161 now. Shortwave Archive watching. And just to remind everybody, as we have all of this happening, March the 23rd, 20 hours UTC, there's a special Zoom. Special Zoom is for those that contribute in some way. So if you use either the super chat here or you give a donation through one of the videos, and of course, there's the PayPal donations. If you give through one of those means, from now until March the 22nd, you are invited and will be in the listening session. So we have a Zoom listening session coming up March the 23rd, and it is a listening session where you have to have your radio, because we're all going to tune the bands together via Zoom and share what we're listening to. And if, some people have things that they don't hear or they don't know what it is or they want, we'll be there. We're going to try to help each other identify the stations we hear and check out what's happening. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, that's coming up March 23rd. And of course, I'll be sending the Zoom link a few days before the event itself. And so just make sure I got your email so I can actually send you the link. And it's open to anybody that gives a donation until March 22nd. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Okay. What else do we have? Mark Roberg says, speaking of weather radios, many of the cheap HTs for ham and GMR also have weather band reception. Yep, a lot of them do, definitely. So, and for the signals, what do you know? It's a radar. Yeah, it's because I've been I know by the type of radar what it is because I've read on it over time. So it's you get used to what's the radars and what type of radars they are. The frequency ranges also that they'll be on. So like the ones that I was showing here that were sweeping, little sweeping, that made like an angle line that went down to the waterfall. These are known to be codars. You recognize them immediately. There's different speeds of codars, but these are really radars that check out the ocean waves and current. So you get used to it simply because at some point you learn about it and so. What else do we have? Oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about. That will. So tonight is the last night of HARP. So they've been experimenting since February 27th until March the 3rd UTC. Remember, March 3rd UTC is tonight. So tonight, starting at 0200 hours UTC, there will be HARP test transmissions on several frequencies that have been posted. Let me see here if I can quickly find the frequencies for you guys so that I can let you guys know. So the frequencies for HARP. Frequencies for HARP. I will give you that in a few seconds. For tonight will be, here we go. So March the 3rd tonight from 0200 to 0800 universal time. The frequencies, take note of the frequencies: 2.8, 3.25, 3.3, 4.1, 5.4, 6.8, and 9.6 megahertz, which in kilohertz means 2800 kilohertz, 3250, 3300, 4100, 5400, 6800, 9600. I did hear a little bit of the 9600 last night, but I didn't really actively listen much. I was busy doing a lot of other things. So, but tonight I plan on monitoring it as much as possible. So that's the last night you'll be able to hear HARP tests, which usually consists of sweeping tones, all sorts of little things like that on the frequencies mentioned. So it starts at 02 and goes up to 08 UTC tonight. So yeah, Rob, you gave a donation. You are allowed on the Zoom, absolutely. Anarchy Dude wanted to share this. Well, I thank you for the video that when you provided fix for Edge. Okay, thanks. No problem. You can't open settings. Yeah. You'll have to do a restore. I'll have to use the Windows restore feature and go back before the problem happened. Storms, Rages, and Cats, March 23rd, your birthday. We're not far on March 20th. What else do we have? What else do we have? Checking it out here. Hey, James. Nice to have you here. James Farley, KD2GUZ, New Jersey. Yeah, I wanted to show a visual. Why are we changing frequencies? It's difficult to understand how all of this changes all the time. So I thought that by showing a visual of how the day night patterns change through the months was an easier way to understand why the we have to change the frequencies and times sometimes for the different international broadcast stations. um Mark says listening session, good idea. Kirk Tinsley, new to shortwave radio, wondering why 7200 LSB seems like a complete circus much of the time. Yeah, well, that's human nature. When you get, idiots on a band, that's what happens. And it's been going on for a long time, so it's not much checking in. If you notice, most of them don't ID at all, so never give their ham calls or anything. It happens. There's a few frequencies like that are kind of cuckoo's nests. What else do we have? Jim Gordon, nice to have you here. Let's see. What's the story with the shorter station losing tower and transmitter? Someone robbed it. Wow. Yeah, it's not shortwave. It's the medium wave, that AM station. But I mean, we're all thinking it's a prank. Something is just so dumb with that. It's um there's a YouTuber that went and took videos and pictures. Looks like more of a transmitter site that was already abandoned and had no AM for a long time. And now they played that story to kind of get funds to pay for a new transmitter and all. I think it's much more of a kind of a story that they made up. And well, they've got, I don't know how much money now they had, but they've got some money to pay for the transmitters and the antennas, putting it back up. So we'll see what happens with that. It's kind of funny, but it's an entertaining story. Let's give them that, and if it brings them back on medium wave, but it looks a lot more like they were off for a long time, and nobody was listening, I guess. It's kind of hard to think that the station is on the air and nobody notices it's off. Um, it's pretty weird. I don't know. There's some things in that story that don't add up. And imagine it's like a 200-foot tower. You steal a 200-foot tower and nobody notices. That's kind of bizarre. It's somebody should have noticed something somewhere. I mean, I don't know. Thank you, Swat Cuts, for the donation. And make sure I have your email for those that are have never participated. Official shortwave radio at gmail.com. Send email. Send your email to that address. Make sure I have your email so I can contact you to invite you for the Zoom listening session. What else do we have here? Radio Kid, nice to have you here from Washington, D.C. suburbs. What else? Wholly Unaware, nice to have you here. Catman. Anything else? Let me just go down. RJ Dakota, nice to have you here from Winsville, Missouri. What else do we have? Yeah, the radio host Bud Hood has passed away here. It's a local radio and pretty much radio star here in the province of Quebec. And he passed away. I will be actually doing a little modification to the International Radio Report. I think we'll have enough space for me to add the info into the International Radio Report show for tomorrow morning. Something else that I want to talk about. Remember, the next week in North America, we are changing our clocks. So that means be careful because you will be messing up your conversions from local time to UTC. Remember that universal time always stays the same. But because we will be pushing our clocks ahead 1 hour, we are going to change that reference. So here in the Eastern time zone, right now, UTC is 5 hours ahead of Eastern time. But when we send our clocks forward 1 hour next week, UTC will now have only 4 hours difference. So there's always that time when it messes up. I always mess up. I'll post something and it's like, oh, I heard this at 04 UTC. And then I'll be like, oh, no, we changed our clocks. It's 03 UTC now. So just be prepared for that little mess up moment. And that's why, sorry, that's why I always say that your radios should always, the clock on your radios should always be on UTC. Like that, you never mess up because you always have a UTC clock in your face. And that is the best deal. I mean, on shortwave, we are dealing with UTC time. So that's the way it is. Storms, Raiders, and Cats says, yes, I know. Shook my head too at that story for the stolen tower. They have FM translator there where you're trying to use without the AM, but that is illegal in itself. So I guess there might be some investigation because they had to have, I mean, they had a license for AM, which means they are obligated to be on AM. So, you know, I don't know. It seems like they've been off for a while, according to what we see. Oh, you got the BFO unit for it, Rob. Wow, that's cool. It's an extremely stable radio for the time. I'm amazed. That grounding, because we're talking about this radio that you guys, in case you guys are wondering, this radio in the back here, which is a 1969 Grundig receiver. That's what we're talking about. That radio for 1969 is so stable. I am amazed. You tune a radio, you tune a frequency with, like, say, I will tune Radio Romania tonight on it. I can turn it off, and tomorrow at the exact same time, turn it on, and it's still going to be on Radio Romania's frequency. I won't even have to readjust. I'm surprised at how stable it is for a radio from 1969. It's just crazy. KW61, programs are bad when even managers don't know it's off. No, I'm sure Brothers Stair Operation, they would have been on it immediately. It's just funny. Ron Zero says, I'll say it. I love my radios and my radios love me. Radio love. Radio Kid says got a new Texan PL365 recently. I like it for okay the PL36. You got the 368 because the 365 doesn't have SSB. Oh wait, the 365 has SSB. Look, I'm all messed up here. Wait a minute. Let me just get back. Okay, the 365 yeah does have SSB. Yeah, it does mess up the batteries. Does it have? I'm all messed up now. The 365. Come on. No, it's the 368 that has SSB. That's it. I'm lost. Too many radios. But the if it's the 365 anyways, when it's off, it eats batteries. You have to that is a flaw in that radio. Yes. Um, but the 368 doesn't. Oh yeah, I know, Jim Gordon. I see some of those go through on some of the sites, and I'm like, yeah, really, a whole board for this or that radio or a whole section of parts, and you're like, come on, can't sell that price. It's like it's like having when you look at the prices of the old radios. I mean, it's like, come on, these are not worth that price at all, at all. Um, what else do we have here? We go down. So yep, Bob Hale, K90ID is silent key, and Rob, radio channel. Are you trying to save AM radio international radio report? Well, we talk about it a lot. We've been talking about the AM radio in every vehicle act that's trying to pass in the United States. Even more worrisome, we hear that some manufacturers, some car manufacturers, maybe don't even want to have um, AM radios, AM FM radios anymore. What's really weird about it is all the ones that actually had no AM radio, they just turn it on via a firmware update, which means it's part of the radio in the car already. Why you don't just leave it on? I think what's happening is we are getting to a point where simply they simply don't want to put shielding anymore. Because what we learned here, which you guys that have electric cars, is that for the most part, AM radio works fine. So that means the real story behind it is not we can't put AM radio because it's too noisy. It's we don't want to put AM radio because we won't have to shield anymore and save money. Now that sounds like the true story behind all of it. So, anyways, we do our best. We do our best. Radio Kid says, just leave one wall clock on UTC and confuse everyone who doesn't know. I don't know how many times people came in and says, why is that clock at that on the wrong time? Carl Icon Pirate on 6977. Let's check it out. Definitely. Very weird frequency, 6977. So there is a pirate on 6977 AM mode. It's a pretty decent signal up here in Montreal already. So if you guys want to check it out, I will be checking. Not hearing anything, but if you guys want to check the LRA 36 Antarctica on 15476. Right now, I'm not hearing at all. Right now. Just ID'd with a woman's voice, but the volume was too low. Mario Libertino, which radio good on long wave? I don't know what some of you out there with long wave expertise might have some good choices. I know that the Texan PL's 990 and seems to be pretty good on long wave. There's quite a few portables that are. George says, "What happened to WRNO?" I haven't checked in a long time. They're not on 7505 recently, George. I haven't checked them in a little while now. Last I heard, 7505 was probably a couple of months back. I rarely tuned that frequency at that time when they're on. So I don't know. Maybe they're off the air. Ross Radio Channel says very sensitive radio. Granding's, I have another Granding radio restored years ago. Very sensitive. Yeah, but you do see its limits. Mine, it's very sensitive, works great, but on the weak signals, you see that today's radios have an advantage over them, though. Okay, the 365 has SSB, but yes, it does eat batteries. For that, yes, you are right. When they're off, it does eat batteries. Yeah, it's just that the 368 is more precise in its tuning. I got too many radios now. I'm all lost on the radio models. Tasso WT's WW 5085 is still on. I noticed, Joe. No music but talk, seems like. Yeah, well, they came back. They repaired one of the transmitters for WTWW, but now it'll be what it should have been from the start, which is religious programming. If you're talking the WRNO right now, but if you're talking about the Rock of the World from the 80s, the WRNO, yeah, that's been long gone. That was pretty much gone. I liked it when there was a rock station. It was kind of cool. What else do we have? Kev Michael, nice to have you on board. Jim Gordon, anyone encountered the new Quodosen SR286? It's getting mostly good reviews from people like Jay Allen. It uses a car stereo radio chip. Yeah, I've seen a few posts about it. So I'll have to check it out. Okay, let me check it out. I'll check the emails here. Yep. Got the email in. Everything seems fine. Just make sure that all of it is okay. So I'm going to keep the emails to make sure that I can send in all of the links. So cool. So we have Ron Sears. Is there a timetable for Shortwave Online? I had a small book years ago for too far back. Yeah, well, you have a lot of websites online for schedules. One of them that I like is the EIBI Space, which is EIBISpace.de, which is really the one that I go to all the time because it's extremely accurate, where you have by frequency or by time in UTC. I know that some like short-wave.info for schedules, which is nice. It has a better interface because it's easier to manage what you're listening to by just entering a frequency or whatever. But I find that it has a lot of multiple errors in it. And one of the biggest problems is sometimes if you're not tuned correctly or enter the frequency, like off by a kilohertz, sometimes it cannot, like it's not going to give you a response of what you're listening to, but it's in there. So, but there are quite a few websites for frequencies and times for shortwave broadcasts. You got a watch that can pick up WWVB. That's cool. SWAT cuts. Sheila, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario. Nice to have you on board. George heard 770 WABC in Greece for a few minutes. Wow, that's cool. That's a good DX. Pretty good DX. Tasso says, what's funny is I started a new semester in college today, and when introducing ourselves, we were asked to talk about a hobby of ours. I know for a fact I were to say, hey, I listen like shortwave radio. There would be crickets in the room. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's always been an odd thing. Even when it was more popular, it was still an odd thing. Honestly, I still remember when I did my French class, my presentation on shortwave radio. I could see everybody like, wow. And even more when I saw everybody, when I put letters of stations that I received, and I had chosen like Radio Moscow from Russia, Radio Berlin from East Germany, things that are like, whoa, what the hell is that? Yeah, that could be one thing, Mark. Trying to push XM radio, but you know, I think it has a lot to do with if they don't have radios in there, they don't have to put as much shielding, so it costs less. Yeah, absolutely, Tessa. Joseph has nothing on 15476. Down the street from KFS, QESDR. Sergeant Rock, nice to have you on board. Nice to have you here from Hawaii. Thanks for all your CIDX newsletter, Canadian Coast Guard February article, and other great writers. Cool. Always nice. Got to finish my utility article at the latest tomorrow. Okay, Michael has 260 kilohertz Radio Mongolia, 280 Northern Russia. Wow. Yeah, I have a WRNO bumper sticker. I have a. I don't see it. Oh, yeah, I see it here. Now, this is not the one with WRNO on it, but look at that. Radio Sweden, KBS, which was called Radio Korea back then, but they changed to KBS only now because there's Voice of Korea um, before it was called Radio Pyongyang, and the Voice of Free China, which is Radio Taiwan International today. So these are pretty cool. So this is part of what I have. I think my WRNO sticker is on my Realistic DX100. I have some stickers on top of it. Oh yeah, that's the thing. The PL365 doesn't have a keypad, which makes it dreadfully complicated to tune around. Where the 368 has the keypad. Yes. Thank you for man, I haven't used the 365 in a long time. I should take it out for a spin. Trevor says WTWW briefly tested on 9475 around February 10th. Apparently their transmitters were in really horrible conditions when they shut down and fired the Ted Randall that did the music show. Yeah, I know about it, but I've never had or heard Superpower KUSW in the 80s. I'm not sure. Let me just check schedules here. I want to check something about 9940. So yeah, it's possible that they're back testing because there's no other station that are there. Well, except for like China and Thailand and stuff like that. So it's possible that they are retesting on some of the old frequencies. Absolutely. So Rob's getting a lot of China under these old Grundig that he fired up. Wholly unaware, I took delivery of a Chinese Malahide SDR DSP2 fun little radio with superb noise reduction. Still finding my way around. So have fun. Shortwave archive. If only CKUT had a 1 kilowatt shortwave repeater. George, do you remember that radio Panasonic RFB 3100? Yeah, there's a lot of Panasonics back in the day. Man, some nice stuff in there. Cleverson SA, nice to have you here from Brazil. Kevin Michael, recently seen on your radio with shortwave and internet. Yeah, it's kind of an internet radio with shortwave on it, and yeah, I get the drift. There's actually a John Figliuzzi that has the listening guide that I talked about. Talked about it in a review. It actually is on the Shortwave Listening Post website, Tom Witherspoon's website, and he seems to like it, and I get what it is in a way, because he mentions, well, no need for SSB because it's not meant for that, and I understand if you buy an internet radio with shortwave, it's a box made for content. So what it does is it gets both worlds of internet radio and joins the capabilities of shortwave for radio. Sorry, for radio listening. And so that means it for a content box. It's interesting. It's like the first radio that has all of that into one, and it's definitely interesting. Here I would like, it's close to 400 Canadian dollars. I would not buy that for that price. It seems to have good audio. For what John says, it has amazing audio. And it's okay for listening to shortwave, but there's a lot of internal birdies that appear everywhere. And I saw another guy that talked about it and said there were dozens of birdies across the shortwave spectrum that sometimes are on a frequency of station you want to listen to, which makes it difficult to hear. So definitely a lot of, I mean, it's a very electronic device. It's an internet radio at the start. Definitely it needs maybe a little more shielding to prevent that from happening. Um, Personally, I get the drift of it's a content device, but hey, why not have SSB? That would be nice. It would add all of the features you want in a radio. But for the internet part, it seems to work well. But the menus seem to be very complex, not always clear, and kind of complicated sometimes to operate. But we'll see. It's. I mean, it's a first. Um, we'll see what happens with that, and if they succeed in making some good ones, Ricky, our Radio New Zealand is doubling down on AM after last year's cyclone showed how important AM radio is in emergencies due to its reach. So they were going to turn off AM at one point. So that's good because I mean, yeah, AM radio is important and it does have a great reach when there's some problems and there's difficulty and um, let me just go here. I gotta check something. Okay, when there's a major problem, a major issue with weather or any disaster type, that's the cool thing of AM. It reaches long distances. Rob, picking up ham and Grande radio. I'm using those that have socket for BFO. Cool. SWAT Cuts, Realistic Patrolman SW60 was what started my hobby. Cool. A lot of guys, a lot of people had that radio. Rob needs to buy new radios. Danny Shortwave says, I'm done with internet radio boxes, been burned once. Yeah, I got the WFR32, which I like, and I use it mostly for. I stream a few radio stations like BBC sometimes, Radio France, but for the most part, it's almost only music, and I like it mostly for the fact that it has a tremendous audio quality. So it's more of a great sounding device. King and the Xer, last I remember, WTWW on 5085 sounded distorted over time. Yeah, well, apparently the transmitters were in really bad condition when they went off the air. Anthony France just posted a video on a Facebook page showing the right to left signal on the waterfall. Doesn't look like Coda or INO sound. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go and check it out to see. I'll be checking that out here. So let's check out what's on the shortwave group. Here we go. Okay, what's your let's check it out. Okay, you mean that signal that you're getting there? Yeah. I've seen that before. I've seen that before. Not sure exactly. I've seen that before. It is it pretty recent that you've seen it on your radio? What else do we have? Need to go back down here. Okay, let's RY 491 started with a DX realistic DX 160, nice radio. King and DX for Radio Shack DX 402 since the early 2000s. Kevin Michael WRNO was the rock of New Orleans, and I had the FM outlet. Yep, absolutely. Mark says started with an old Fada and a Hammerland boat anchor. Radio Kid, I got that shortwave speech for a public speaking class in community college, 1985, 86. Use a cassette tape of interval signals as an intro. Cool. Vojislav, nice to have you here from Belgrade, Serbia. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Mike WX50, Radio Sweden was one of my favorite stations. Yep, that was pretty cool. Swiss Radio International was one of my favorites, says SWAT Cuts. James Farley, another pirate on 6940. Let's check it out. That 6977 just had what sounded like some kind of interval signal, or let's try 6940. Yep.
The Capitol Police, per their own timeline, received the authorization request from the Department of Defense, where I was Chief of Staff for National Guard men and women, before January 6th. The Capitol Police then went to the Sergeant at Arms in the House and the Senate.
So 6940 kilohertz, another very strong AM pirate station. Pretty good here too. Kevin Michael, CBC North TV, Yellowknife was on the net via with Wild Canada. Yeah, Swiss Radio International. Yep, we actually we're going to talk about it also in the International Radio Report tomorrow. Bob Heil passing away. No, Radio RSA has been off for a long time. It changed to Channel 2, Channel Africa for a while, and finally decided that they didn't want to continue doing that African coverage. The MLA30 Plus and MLA30 are very similar. I have both here, and I don't really see much of a difference. Hey, Matt, nice to have you on board from Colorado. John K6RXD says, I'm in a high-rise building, Faraday cage. What window balcony antenna would you recommend for shortwave? Definitely an MLA30 loop. Look for it on Amazon. These are really, really nice. KW61 says use National Panasonic 2800. Volts, wanted to ask you how your DX10 handles power. As I saw in your FT8 video, you use 30 watt. Is that the limit it can do for FT8? Can you please elaborate a bit on that topic? No, you can go full power. If you want, you can do 100 watt FT8. I use 30 watts because on FT8, I will usually hang around 50 watts, kind of not overpowering. But if you want to put 100 watts, I'll go 100 watts without any problem. it goes 100 watts. The only mode that it's lower power, like most transceivers, if you want to transmit AM mode, and AM mode is 25 watts. But for all other modes that you want to transmit, you can transmit full 100 watts. There's no problem there. It can handle it. And actually, I'm amazed at how cool the radio stays, even if, like, I will sometimes pump the FT8 up to 100 if I'm in a big pileup, some exotic station, and it doesn't seem to work. I'll pump it up to 100 on FT8 to go and get the station. And I mean, the radio stays so cool. It's very well designed to take the full power and not overheat or anything. It's really amazing. But no, you can do 100 watts on the FT8. Absolutely, it's you'll do it. It's just because FT8, it's a weak signal mode, and you often don't have to pump up the power that high to be heard everywhere. I've been doing experiments, actually. I've been looking at PSK Reporter and sending out CQs with as low as 5 watts to see how it goes. And man, I'm amazed to see that just 5 watts into my end-fed wire sometimes makes it like across the world. And you're like, wow, this is just so crazy that just 5 watts makes it everywhere. But I'll usually run FT8 around 50. That will be my like, not to push it too much, but like I said, you can do 100, no problem. SWAT cuts. Grandpa Munster built from scratch ham radio out of vacuum tubes. Man. Kev Michael, 13650 is Pyongyang, North Korea, with the voice of Korea at 9 a.m. with the song of Kim into news. I haven't checked 11710 for a while. I need to tune the frequency of the radio, the voice of Korea. Edwin Casco, notice 2 new receivers on YouTube videos, both getting excellent reviews. Those 2 radios. Yeah, the Choyang LC90. It's mostly for what it is because it's like a big package, but I've seen a lot of reviews saying that there are literally dozens of birdies. Some of them sometimes annoying frequency you want to actually listen to. And on AM, it's actually very bad. This is, even John Figliuzzi says it's almost useless on AM band. So no, it's not that great. And it's expensive for something that, limits itself to shortwave international broadcasts. The other one looks interesting. It's not available here. I've been trying to find a way, because I don't go on AliExpress and stuff like that, and I go through other means. And that Quodosens SR286 doesn't show up here anywhere. George Blaupunkt is selling shortwave radios here in Europe with longwave. Are they still? Anthony France has the SST CW on 10551. Let's go tune that. Oh, by the way, I'm starting to hear LR836 in Antarctica 15476. I'm hearing the voice. It's actually coming in. It should, in an hour for me, I would say in about an hour, it should be really, really top notch. And that's June CW. Yep, SST 10551. So 10551 CW or 10550 upper sideband. You will hear Sierra Tango and Morse code being sent out. And it's interesting because it seems to match a frequency of the M23 Moscow number station from Russia. Pretty interesting. Shortwave archive. How well do you get the BBC at 11,825 at 23? I've actually never tried that frequency from the BBC. I haven't tried it. I'm often at 23. Often I'll be listening to something else. If I do, I'll be listening to maybe Spain or something like that. Jim Gordon missing HCJB on 21455 single sideband. Yeah, that time when they decided in the 80s that everybody will go single sideband at some point, which never happened. I mean, come on. Back in the day, the radios were so drifty that would have been a bad idea. But it was nice to see that experimental frequency, 21455. And by the way, for those that wondered, 6050, which is the last remaining frequency from HCJB Quito, Ecuador, 6050 was off the air for quite several weeks now. It's back, and I heard it this week actually here, playing that wonderful Ecuadorian music, which just makes me, go back in time and think of HCJB back in the day. So no, I never tried the shortwave archive 11825 at 23. Maybe I need to try it out. Um, Tony France about the last 2 months. Huh, it's interesting. But that particular signature of a signal, Anthony, I've seen several times in the past, and I'd say I've seen that even last year or the year before on some bands. Mike WX50 used to enjoy Saludos Amigos. Yeah, that was cool. I like the musical mailbag. They were always munching on something, cookies, cakes, and I always just was before the DX party line. Yeah, absolutely, Rob. You can post what you're listening to. That's the idea of the group, Rob, to have everybody participate. If you're listening to something, just share it. What frequency and time and your location. Very important to have all of the information. Um, yeah, the use of an actual internet radio. If you have a smartphone, if you have a computer, and decent speakers, you already have all you need to stream. You really don't need to have an actual internet radio. You know, if you've got good speakers with good audio, you do the same on a computer. You do the same on your smartphone. Absolutely, there's no need for something else. I bought it for the pure I wanted it, and not that I needed it. Honestly, I'm happy with it, but you know, it's kind of my kitchen radio, basically. Um, what else do we have? Yeah, these pirates seem to be they're pretty powerful here. They look like they're from the Northeast, not too far from here. As I'm hearing the music right now, 6940 is really powerful 6940 right now. They're probably somewhere in the Northeast. Kevin Michael, Swiss Radio International with the shortwave merry-go-round. Yep, the two Bobs. Jim Gordon, stop talking about the great stations of yesteryear. I'm crying in my Guinness. Yeah, Lots of these stations in Radio Netherlands. Yep. Yep. Matt says, I wish there were more than a couple of Kiwi SDRs in Africa. It would be cool to hear local stations that way. I think you can get a lot with Radio Garden, though. Yep, Radio Garden is an app that it has a lot of African FM and FM stations, mostly because there's pretty much no AM stations left much in Africa anymore. Keegan DX remembers the interval signal from WRFI. WYFR, what did I say? WYFR. It was like a mix of WRMI and WYFR, which isn't far because they purchased a station. Rob, I like seeing vintage radio work again. Oh yeah, it's fun. I like that. You know, this Westinghouse, this old Westinghouse receiver here from 1949. I have a tremendous amount of pleasure tuning around with it. It's just so much fun to listen to shortwave through that. Kevin Michael's scared to buy new radios from Ethon since they scored up on the E1. Yeah. I think, it's like that the one that I was particularly looking forward and that I have the impression will never come out. It's that little portable with that color display. That looked very tempting. And that would have been one that I probably would have wanted to get. But I have the impression that it's not going to come out. I think they got burned by the Elite HD. And I think that they're going to stay put on less expensive stuff, maybe. And talking about the Ethon 750, which is also the Texan S2000, it seems to be discontinued as no one has it in stock. And for those that wonder what it is, I don't know if you don't see it. It's here. It's that radio right there, which I gave a rather poor review. It works, and if you're happy with it, be happy with it. That's all that counts. It's just, price versus the flaws seen versus everything. It's sad because it's a great looking radio. You got to admit it. And, it receives and everything. It's just the reviews are really on specific items of a radio like that at that price should not have these flaws, and that's it. But, I see a lot of people that have it and they're happy with it. That's all that counts, honestly. That's all that counts. You're happy with the radio. It's okay. Danny Shortwave says, yes, I made FD8 contacts to Japan on 7 watts and on 10 meters with my Xiegu G90 and my end-fed antenna. Yep. KW61 says, hey, Jim, at least you have a Guinness. But vintage radios are such fun to use. Yeah, absolutely. Matt says, Voice of Korea is already improving like it does every spring on my QTH morning 1300 Zulu on 435. Almost full quieting. SWAT Cats Radio Stereo España has anniversary coming up March 15th. Started in 1942. Amazing. George says you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I know. I've been tuning around some of the Kiwi SDRs online across big parts of Europe, and man, it's so cool to tune around and listen to the AM band and the medium wave band there. TV Radio 72. Nice to have you here, Michael from New Jersey. Have you been able to catch HARP tests from Alaska? I caught a couple of them. First of all, I completely forgot, so I missed the first few days, and yesterday I tuned a little bit, didn't have a lot of time. I'll be trying tonight again. Tonight's the last night, so I'll be trying tonight. Donna Royal, WA7730SWL, and Nonco. Yeah, Nonco is a great place to buy radios. But the service is really good. Kevin Michael, that is the radio I saw with the internet and shortwave. The AM is bad. Yeah, that everybody says the AM is really, really bad. Shout out to Paul the Cat. Nice to have you here. Jay Watterson, 69. You missed him. He was here 30 minutes ago. Jasmine, nice to have you here from Seattle. Long time no see. And let's check it out. Any special? So let's go back to Larry 36. Yeah, the signal is improving on Antarctica, Larry 36. George, is Arnie Curro still on Radio Van in Cuba with his DX show? Nope. He's passed away. Arnie Curro's passed away. KW61, best DX hearing HCJB and a little 3 transistor Radio Shack P-Box kit back in the 80s. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, CO2KK. Jasmine, do you think that shortwave radio was more popular in the past because it was the only way to hear a lot of music from around the world before people had access to the internet and Spotify? I don't think music has much to do with listening to shortwave in the past. I think it was much more a thing of listening to what's happening somewhere else. One of the big things of shortwave was the Cold War. It was the only way you could, hear what's happening on the other side. And that made it popular for that reason. Anybody that wanted to hear news of what's happening in our world was it. And I think the biggest, the problem of shortwave has never been, and I'll say it again and again, shortwave, the internet, and Spotify and stuff like that has nothing to do with the decline of shortwave. Shortwave was already in decline way before the internet was a thing, and that is actually showing you where all of this was. Shortwave had a peak around the early 80s, and starting with the mid 80s, slowly there's started a decline. And as we went into the 90s, Cold War over, the Berlin Wall down, there was a lot of stations that was kind of their strategy was to counterbalance the East and the West news. And what happened is that in the 90s, there are quite a few countries that they sat down and was like, okay, the Cold War is over. Why are we doing this? Because now most of those countries have, better access to the news, the actual real news for, the free world news, we'll call it like that. And so a lot of stations started thinking, well, why are we spending millions to do this? There's a decline in the 90s in listeners. The biggest the biggest reason for stations to go off is if nobody's listening or there's a big decline in um, letters coming in. Of course, you're going to reevaluate why you're spending millions of dollars for an international service. You know, when I hear somebody say, well, it's because of the internet, it's like, who sits down on the internet on whatever device, and that's because they want to tune in, you know, some station from Sweden or some station from Finland or some station from whatever other country. Apart from big gun government operations that do have still some English language programming or other languages that you might want to listen to, like me, for example, in French, there's the fact that the internet is not a place for that shows in all of the stations that are gone and that never replaced it with an internet only broadcast. Radio Netherlands, if it was a internet thing, would have said we'll be on the web from now on. And I'm sure some people would have listened to it, but they didn't see any interest in let's do a web radio with it. Um, Shortwave is such a unique and different thing that, first of all, it never could compare to anything on the internet. And, the target audience also. Nothing on the internet targets you. Here in North America, if you listen to, say, you find something in English that comes from France, it's not targeting you. It's a local station in France that has some English programming, very local programming. It does not, it's not the same thing. The shortwave stations were catered to have content designed for you to learn about their culture and maybe their music and so on. So you can't compare that. And like I said, streaming on the internet started in the late 90s. And through the 90s, we lost a bunch of stations. One of the very interesting conversations that was going on that I heard from it was on the Wavescan show. They were interviewing um, one of the big names that we heard all the time on HCJB back in the day, and they were explaining if HCJB why it went off the air, and there's a lot of things that happened that made them go off the air. First of all, the famous airport that they were building that meant they had to move the transmitter site, which cost a lot of money. And one of the things that came out of that conversation is by late 90s, HCJB was getting a handful of letters compared to the 80s. And you can't say it's because of the internet because most people weren't on the internet. There was just a shift away for a lot of listeners into something else. And I think a lot of it, part of it has to do with noise. And a lot of it might have been, well, as stations go off and you have less on the radio, you might have less interest in turning on your radio and listening. And now we add the noise floor that's getting higher and higher. Today, anybody that buys a shortwave radio, I can bet you 9 out of 10 will turn it on one night and will just either never use it again or will return it because they haven't heard anything. And it's not necessarily just because there's less to listen to. It's a lot to do with, well, inside your home, the noise floor is so high that you might not hear anything. So the internet has never been and is not related in any way to the decline of shortwave listening. It's more complex than that. Lorburn says acquired his father's Yaesu FR 101 radio. Should it be okay to switch it on and see if it works, or will it blow something up? No, I think you can turn it on. I don't think there should be much of a problem with that. Jasmine, why are pirates mostly in the Northeast? I've never heard of West Coast pirates. Yeah, there are a few. I think it simply has to do with demography. It's like there's more population in the Northeast of the United States than many parts of the US. So the more population you get in an area, the more chances somebody might be a pirate. I think it's just statistics much more than anything else. Um, Holding Unaware says got two Ethon E1s, high serial numbers, best radios I own. Rob Straight Channel says I see it'd be very hard to get bulbs for the drum on Grundig satellite. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you here, Bert. Hope you are well in sunny Virginia, 65 degrees, pretty cool. That's nice, beautiful weather there. Scatter Phoenix, when you say you take batteries to go on your adventures, what do you mean? Camping or Canadian backcountry? Would you do streams or videos from the woods or mountains? Yeah, no, I don't do any of that much. I don't have the time to do it too. Mostly what I'll do is just go to, a park for a day or something like that, a local park, and just bring out whatever I need. Valts, I got curious and Googled about ham radio requirements in Canada. It seems it requires CW sending in full rights. Am I wrong? No, we don't need CW anymore here. The in Canada, the requirements are so we have a 100. So we have two licenses, and well, we can divide it into three licenses in a way. The first basic license, you've got a 100 question exam. With the standard, the electronics, the radio works, the antennas, the codes and the operations and the regulations. It's a 100 multiple choice exam, and you need at least 70% to have your ham license. And if you have more than 80%, you have what's called basic with honors, which is what I had. So my score was higher than 80%. It was like 94% or something. That gave me basic with honors, which means it gives me the basic VHF, UHF bands and all HF privileges. So I can be on any HF frequency without any problem. And then we have the highest level of license, which I'm starting to sometimes wonder if I should go for it. I'm kind of feeling like maybe I'd like to have the highest license, and that gives you more privileges, higher power, and things that you can do on the basic, including like operating a repeater, stuff like that. So it's that, but the CW requirements here have been gone for quite a while now, so there's no more CW requirement. Landy Quadrski, are you cocktailing? No, I've got an empty glass right now. Kevin Michael, my Sony ICF 2003 is still my favorite for shortwave. Still my to go for DX. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's just see here. Trying to go down. Okay, I lost my spot. I hate it when that happens. Oh, here we go. So the frequencies for HARP, what I gave earlier, they're on the Facebook group, by the way. If you're on the Facebook group, go check them out. So the HARP frequencies, which I will mention again, are 54 If I can find them, here we go. So for tonight, HARP in Alaska will be testing out from 0200 to 0800 UTC on 2800 3250 3300 4100 5400 6800 and 9600 kilohertz. Short of archive, did you ever get Radio New Zealand when it's broadcast 7.5 kilowatts? Yep. And I got a QSL card from 1984, I think. On I think it was 6100 kilohertz. Back then, I received it with my Realistic DX302. Was the first time I had heard Radio New Zealand. I remember it was early morning. And I was so happy to get that QSL card from Radio New Zealand back in the day. It's just crazy. Skylar Phoenix says, I don't want you to cause you to lose your mind or anything, but I just took a Ratty 760 pocket radio to LA on a trip. It was great listening to air, FM, AM, and weather. But I didn't get any shortwave in my hotel. Yeah, especially inside an hotel, that's going to be the biggest problem is getting shortwave. So nope, Radio Moscow has been gone for a long time. I haven't checked lately. I wondered because Radio Moscow became Voice of Russia, and they left shortwave, but we're still registering every single scheduled season. They're still registering shortwave frequencies, but we're not on the air. So I don't know if they stopped. I'd have to check the HFCC lists. But they did that for several years. Register all the shortwave frequencies they want to use, but actually we're never on the air. Kevin Michael, 15476 is coming in again, but weaker. I think Argentina station is mixed with the Antarctica. Yeah, they often have the identification of RAE, Radio Argentina al Exterior, on it. It is definitely getting better. They should be getting a 10 kilowatt transmitter in the coming weeks. So it'll be interesting. They were saying that maybe by month of May or June, they could be pumping up 10 kilowatts. Because right now they're not even at a kilowatt. Apparently their output stage is roughly 700 watts, which makes it quite amazing that we hear it up here in Montreal from down in Antarctica. Yeah, Jean Arash, and one of the comments I get all the time is all I hear is religious stuff when I turn on the shortwave radio, and it's like, yeah, because there's the strongest signals in North America. Gary, nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. Kim Michael, Radio Berlin was a good station in the 80s. Matt, some broadcasters remain on HF if they want to be heard in Africa or Asia and South Pacific. We can speculate if RNZI, now branded RNZ Pacific, would still be on if that wasn't their target. Yeah, and they made a good commitment too to continue on shortwave. So this is pretty cool. I think what pushed RNZ is really the demise of Radio Australia, which was taking that spot of sending out news to the Pacific. And so now RNZ has decided to take that. A lot of stations, one of the things that also had stations go off the air, and I would say half of all shortwave stations that got off shortwave because their transmitters just went bad and they had no money to buy a new one. It's certainly the case for Africa. I was talking with Sheldon. We started talking last week. We had the radio 100 years of radio in Africa in the International Radio Report, and I can tell you that we started talking about and showing QSLs of African stations from the past, and I remember going to bed in the early 90s listening to Radio Nationale Chadienne 4904.5, signing on at like 0430 UT. But most of these got off the air when either there was some political problem in the country and they shut down the stations, in many cases destroying the transmitters, or simply because the transmitter went bad and they had no parts to fix, they had no money for a new one, and they just said, well, okay, it's gone. And a lot of countries around the world, I think bad transmitters were a big, big thing. Look at RAI, the Italian television and radio service. At the end, they had the whining, the typical shortwave transmitter going bad slowly, the high pitched whining sounds when the broadcast was going on. It was obvious that they were at a point where they needed to invest money into transmitters, and they thought, well, you know what, maybe it's not worth the money. LVR still works. I don't think shortwave will become mainstream again, but it will have a resurgence. Radio hobby is having peak for more off-grid minded people getting around radio. Yeah, I think shortwave will always be there. There will always be some broadcasts for a very simple reason. With all the turmoil and the turmoil arriving that is happening around the world, and the frequent shutdown of the internet by governments that are not happy with people, um, you know, getting communications across. It just shows you that you have to maintain some shortwave services. There will always be some listeners that can get through with radio. We were talking on the International Radio Report about how AM radio in in Israel and all the surrounding areas is a lifeline. There's been frequent shutdowns of everything cellular and internet, and they're trying to reach people with radio. And to give you an idea of how radio is actually important, they were talking about how some prisoners and some people were, like in Gaza, were actually having their radios confiscated because they knew that radio was there that they could listen in on. Mike WX50, listening to 15476 on Kiwi SDR in Buenos Aires. Kiddo61 says, remember Norm McDonald on the CBC website on my 90 megahertz next gen 586 tower computer in real audio. Yeah, real audio. That was a thing for a while, eh? Real audio was great for one thing. It had this compression that was making it possible to get, pretty decent audio over 56K modem connections. Don Royale, Radio Moscow stopped in 93, changed to Voice of Russia until 2014, changed to Radio Sputnik. Yeah. It left shortwave when it changed from Voice of Russia to Radio Sputnik. Current IT guy, nice to have you on board. Paul, been listening to Glenn Hauser's World of Radio. Cool. That's one thing I listen on my internet radio when I don't get it on shortwave. I do. What else do we have? Bob's old records streaming replaced my hobby shortwave listening for a while, but after a few decades later, I'm back on HF. The when the World Radio Network was started on the internet. That is when I thought that maybe we would have a replacement of shortwave and going towards the internet for radio listening of international voices. Because at the beginning of the World Radio Network, all of these big stations that were on the air on shortwave were all putting their broadcast there. So the World Radio Network, in essence, I'd say in like 2000, 2002, 3, 4, was very interesting. And they had all of these feeds specific for Asian audiences, African audiences, North American. They had languages that were all around that you could tune in. And I thought for a while, well, you know what, this is what's going to replace shortwave for a lot of people. Until every time a station would shut off, say for example, you'd have, like Radio Netherlands, when it got off, it was on the World Radio Network. But when they left shortwave, they left nothing. So they got off the World Radio Network. And many, many broadcasters of the day got off the World Radio Network because they left shortwave and they didn't want to have an internet presence, which, it's the World Radio Network is okay. But, I've listened to it off and on recently, and it is boring to what we had 20 years ago on the World Radio Network. So once again, it's just showing one thing is that, no, the internet's not replacing that. And once again, what you get on the internet is very different from what shortwave is all about. And that's something that you got to really understand. Shortwave is catered for you. The internet is not. The internet is, we're just a voice from a country. And try to find something in the language you want to hear. When I hear, somebody once was telling me like, oh, well, I go and listen to Finland or Norway or, in English? No, in Finnish and Norwegian. And there's nothing much. There's a lot of Norwegian stuff on the internet. It's not Radio Norway. That you got to make a difference with that. Like I said, the big gun government or state or own broadcasters are often there. The BBC, stuff like that, they are there. But you'll listen to the CBC here. But the CBC, if you listen to the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, it's not the catered, interesting for a worldwide audience Radio Canada international content. It's the local Canadian content. It can still be interesting for some, but it's not the same thing. You won't have a DX show there. DX shows were for the shortwave audiences. You're not getting that on the internet. Josh, nice to have you here. How much do you think increased satellite and international cable bandwidth and their ability to transmit international news was part of the decline of shortwave? Well, I don't think none of it has to do with the decline of shortwave. I think really the decline of shortwave is somewhere else, honestly. Kevin Michael says HJB is on 690 AM, but very weak. Yeah, here 690 is TSN Sports, so it will be possible to DX. Current IT guy says you'd think the Pacific Northwest, which tend to lean anarchist, would be have more pirates. Yeah, I think it's just a numbers game. Can I do a 25-meter band scan? What do you mean your email won't let me send any email? Anyways, I got your email, Rob. I got it from last time. I'll send you you'll have the link. So let's just go down here to chat a little bit. See if we can join the bottom. Try to get down. I want to go to the bottom a little faster here. We'll see if I was a little far up. Okay, here we go. So hang in there. We're going to try here. David in Barcelona, Spain. Nice to have you on board. We have, yeah, Joe Walsh has a license. We have actually recordings for the International Radar Report where he talks about the ARRL. Matt says, I did kind of stop with CW, but I did well enough that I can understand a lot of it's really slow. Cool. That's good. That's a good start, actually. Matt says, I need to get my station reestablished and get back on the air. Yeah, you need to. You need to. Keegan needs to get his license. Yeah, you should. You'll be a lot of fun with that. Valtz, could you pick a call sign? If you did, do you have any suggestions on how to go about it? Yeah, well, here what happens is, once I got the license, the second thing was to go online into the database and see what call signs are available. And it's a tough one because you can't really get any call signs that you really would like to have. For the most part, they're all taken. Every idea you're going to think about, it's like it's already taken. So my idea went into get a call sign that, if I get into a pileup, kind of sounds different. And I went through the call sign database and I stumbled upon Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. And with the 2Z and the 2Zs, I thought it sounded unique. So I thought, maybe that sounds just different enough that it could, rather than, Victor Echo 2 Alpha Bravo Kilo or whatever, that sounds like more standard. It's like 2 Zulu Zulu in it. I thought it would stand out. Of course, for CW, it's less of an interest because 2 Zulu Zulus are long to send on Morse code. But I thought the sound of it would kind of make it easier for some DX station to hear. So that's pretty much how I went about it. And here, the way it works in Canada is when you get your ham license, you have your ham license, so it's free to get the first license. It's free. You get it for life, and for life means until the age of 120. So it means if I would, pass on tomorrow morning, if nobody advises, the ISED, VE2ZZI will be my call until I reach the good old age of 120, which means that would be 2089. And unfortunately, what's sad about that, there's a good thing about it and a sad thing about it. The sad thing about it is how many call signs are locked up from people that passed away. That could be put back and available, that would be kind of interesting. Well, actually, what I hate about that Ratty 760 is what nobody talks about. Its coverage means it could be kind of a scanner radio. It doesn't work because it doesn't have the good bandwidth for it. So I crappy it for that. But nobody talks about it. No, everybody talks about, shortwave or medium wave or, yeah, that's not where I'm complaining. You don't understand what I'm complaining about. And then it's like, Bill, I listen to airband. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking that up to the high UHF frequency that it covers, There's tons of broadcasts of all sorts of things. You could listen to railway, you could listen to amateur radio on 2 meters. That you cannot. It doesn't have the bandwidth for it. That's what I wanted to do with it. It doesn't do that. It has pre-programmed bandwidths for the different things that they want you to go to, like airband. But out of that, nope, doesn't work. So I hate that radio for that specific reason. Yeah, it receives shortwave okay, but it should be doing more with those frequencies and the higher range, which it doesn't do. Which for me is, well, that's crappy, because that's one of the reasons I wanted to have a better coverage and frequency. If it would have given me that, I would have immediately given a much better review of it. And the rest is, it's restfully small on the display and all of that, but that's different. I mean, that's the funny thing, because every time somebody complains about my review, they tell me, well, I hear airband and shortwave, and yeah, you don't understand what I'm talking about, so please don't comment about it. I know what I'm saying. It's just that for a lot of people, you don't get it. That's all. But for the rest, if what you do with it, you're happy, that's all that counts once again. Yeah, Michael, I have a Radio New Zealand QSL in the 80s at 15:03 a.m. Wow. Current IT guy, I missed breakfast with Radio Australia. Yeah, that morning. That was the morning thing in North America. MDK2. I managed to copy KBS World Radio English broadcast towards Indonesia on 9630 yesterday at 14. It was a first, not very strong, but better than 15575 in North America. So that's cool. Blogger Die, you can start talking about me. Shh, guys, we got to stop talking about him now. He's here. Chas Tank, nice to have you here. Louisville, Kentucky. Gary Greenhow, nice to have you here. Well, Radio Cairo, Georgia, is still on the air, but it has this audio that we can't hear anything, unfortunately. It's sad because it's got a big signal in general. It's just that the audio is so crappy you can't hear anything. Win 1960, nice to have you here. Idaho Head, nice to have you on board. Rotten Animal, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Mad Mrs. Radio Guinea. They often had wonderful music. That's true. It was one of the easy ways to identify it, the music they were playing. So, Mike WX50 for Africa. I remember listening to Nigeria, Kaduna, Radio Uganda, Radio RSA, Radio Cairo. What I liked about Africa is the fact that I could speak French. There are so many stations that opened up the world for me, because I could listen to their French language broadcasts. Yeah, utility stations. There's still a lot of stuff to listen to there for sure. That's a good way of DXing, and so much mysterious signals all the time too. Ian McFarland. Nope. Ian McFarland not on CBC. So, because too broke Tim, a lot of people don't have a smartphone. And a lot of people that have smartphones have data caps, which means you don't listen to anything because you're going to go through your data cap. Yes, you can listen to, but you want to know? No, it's not a thing. There's a certain number of people that do it, but I bet you there's not that much. And it's not replacing, because in most places where you need it, radio is still king. Actually, if you look at stats, we had stats on the International Radio Report. And it's like even in the 20, something like the 18 to 25 range, 70% listen to radio on an actual radio in the United States. Did you know that? We're not facing a battle. It's there's two different ways of listening to stuff. Actually, multiple ways. You have satellite radio with Sirius XM, all of that. But nope, radio isn't really going away. Radio is still a big chunk of what people listen to. And actually, radio is the number one way everywhere around the world where people are actually getting some local programming and news. And there are multiple there are multiple studies still, in recent studies, 2023, 2022. And now we're not talking shortwave, we're talking radio in general, because your comment is more like radio in general related. But people listen, to the radio quite a lot. Shortwaves, it's a different thing, because shortwave is, like I said, catering to something else. Radio Kids sounds to me like over the past few weeks, Radio Venic has been a little clearer audio. Yeah, well, I think it's yesterday. I listened, and it wasn't very strong. It was there, but the audio was low. Radio Netherlands, yep. Darren Rogers, yep. Radio Marti is definitely on shortwave. No, it's Spanish only. It's for Cuba. Bob's old record, can't get pirates on the World Radio Network. Kev Michael, Radio Norway, yeah. Yeah, it is from Greenville, North Carolina, Radio Marti. It's strictly for Cuban, sent to Cuba, so they have only Spanish programming. Radio Kid misses RCI. He used to boom in down here. A lot of people miss Radio Canada International. Just go down. Okay, here we go. We have Paul from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Nice to have you here. I'm trying to get down. KWN 61. Starting to hear in Tucson, Arizona. Here it's getting really nice here. 15475.98 to get the voice correct. So, but Antarctica coming in more and more over here as the gray line is actually aligning with Antarctica and Montreal. But pretty cool audio here. I'm going to try that BBC you talked about, Radio Archive. I'm going to check it out. It's very weak here. BBC on 11825, very weak. I hear it, but barely. So yeah, it's starting to come in pretty well now, the LRA 36. What else do we have? What else do we have? Going down, going down. KW61, you should plan on using your renewable license in 2089. Yeah, pretty much. Dwayne got a good copy of LRA 36 15476. Matt says in USA, when a ham dies or when their license expires, I believe the call sign stays tied up for 2 years, but then can be issued to someone new. Yeah, but you guys have a renewal to it, and that's the thing. What I was actually telling everyone is that I'm okay with the lifetime license, where there should be something is there should be a like every 10 years they should ask us to just go online and say, yeah, I'm still alive, to keep it. Some very quick way of just saying, yeah, so I still want it, in some way. But I think here what's happening is that the Canadian government simply decided that, you know what, I don't want to bother with that. It's money. We're spending money for that. Let's do it the simplest way possible and get your license and get out of here. And it's pretty much what it looks like here. Brian Petty, nice to have you on board. Nice to have you on board. No complaining here, Jill. Nice to have you here, man. Skyler says, I like your negative reviews very much. They help me make an informed decision on whether to spend the money. I think what's important when I do a review, because I mean, that Eton 750 or that's like the Grundig, that got me so much negative comments. It's as if I just, hurt somebody, or I don't know. It was crazy. And I always say, look at the details of my review, listen to it, where I pinpoint what I don't like and the flaws of the radio. And, for the rest, that's the way it is. Don't try to tell me, oh, that feature, which I call a flaw, is normal because of, no, it's not. Okay, please stop annoying me with the wide band of the Grundig 750 is made for audio quality. It's not. Even in the exact papers of Texan, because it's a Texan S2000, when you look at the details, that filter is not supposed to be that wide. It's a goof up of the electronics, and it's not made to be pleasurable to your ears. There are things like that look. So when I talk about a radio, take it as it is. I got a lot of ranting on the ICOM ICR30 portable. Oh, an amazing portable. No, it's not. Use that in a big city like Montreal. It's the crappiest thing you can use for the price that it was sold for. It overloads so much that, use the RF gain. Really? Tell somebody that's not used to using a radio that you have to desensitize your radio to have it receive something. The stupidest idea in the world. So when somebody says, well, just use the attenuator. Yeah, you just told me one thing. You bought a radio and you use the attenuator and you're happy with it. Cool. Shouldn't be. You shouldn't be using an attenuator to desensitize a radio in order to listen to something. A good radio doesn't do that. Do I do that on my Yaesu FTDX10? No, because it's well designed. And the ICOM ICR30 is badly designed. Now, I get why it's badly designed. They put too much stuff in it. So it has all the bells and whistles that are kind of fun, but the money they took to put all of that together means they had less money for the front end. And the radio is a crappy radio. Now, of course, there will be someone somewhere living in the middle of the forest with no strong FM, VHF signals around that will tell me, I never play with the RF gain and the attenuator, and this is the most sensitive radio ever. Yeah, in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, alone on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Oh, I can bet you this thing is probably fantastic. In the middle of the forest. Yeah, I'm sure. But in a big city, or if you live near anything that has a strong VHF, UHF signal, forget it. It's the crappiest thing around. You got to take it into perspective. You got to take all of the details and the things that I say into account, not just jump on the, well, you said that thing was bad, blah, 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 and my experience is this. And the last thing I want as a comment on my channel that I get and that I'm so freaking tired is, well, I'm a ham radio operator and you don't know why that. Yeah, shut up. That's all I got to say. So thank you. I just vented my month's frustration on comments. Oh, God. What else do we have? uh, 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 uh. What else do we have? Yeah, but statistics show you that in Africa, people listen to the radio more than what they do on a smartphone. And we had that statistics last year in our show. You got to be careful about ownership of a smartphone and radio listening. It's very different. And also, unless you live in a big city in those African countries, there is no smartphone coverage. It's concentrated on big cities, and that's it. What else do we have? Yeah, the Appy Station. Absolutely, Bob's Old Records. What else do we have? Blackguard Eyes sent Ball Smacker Radio last night. Receive EQSL in 5 minutes. Yeah, some of them are real quick. Yeah, there are some places like that, Matt. Definitely. You know, Matt, one of the biggest ways to offend the French when they come here, and it happens several times because we have a thing here in Quebec where when people from France come here, tend to often find themselves to be superior to the francophone Quebec population, and there's always a little joke with that. Not that much. I mean, for the most part, there's a lot of people from France that live here and are great. It's great. But when you have somebody coming from France just temporarily here, they have these, ideas that are already in their head of different things. And there was a French couple that came here several years ago, and they were saying, well, your French is different. And the first thing I said is, when I listen to French TV, what's happening in your television in France, you use a lot of English words in your French language that we do not. We use the French words for some of the words you use in English. And I said, did you know that the first place in the world that officially decided that French was its main language is the province of Quebec before France, which I don't even think France has ever done it. And it's like, no, it can't be. Yes, it is. And so there's a lot of things like that that makes me laugh. Then before digital, nice to have you here. He's the guy behind the Sony ICF 7600 that I've been playing with. Calvin, Have you found a way? Have you found the SSB wearable terribly on the Texan 990X? Just sent mine back to change for the PL680. No, I don't have any problem with that on the 990, Calvin. So I don't know. The only time I do is when my smartphone is too close to it. I do have that when that happens. But for the most part, it works well. George, this GE Super Radios. Yeah, I have one here, the 3, which is so crappy. So crappy. You have the correct email, Rob? Official shortwave radio at gmail.com. Let's try to go back down. Not miss out on anybody. Mr. Tons of different letters in your name. Thanks for being so helpful and nice. Other people in this community suck. Yeah, well, you gotta try to be. You gotta doze. There's a lot of crappy comments that just go over. What else do we have? Key in the excerpt. I've heard about some domestic stations in Creole language. Yeah, some. Yeah. John K6RXD. What is the radio behind Gilles? The one hooked up to the display. Oh, it's the Yaesu FTDX10. It's the transceiver. Yaesu FTDX10, John. Matt, getting music on 15476. Yep. Look at that. Oh, it disappeared. There's Iona sound going through the display. Blogger I can hear 6979 in Central Virginia. USB pretty weak. Yeah, it's Antarctica, Joseph. 15476 is the LRA-36, the Argentinian scientific base in Antarctica. But they will use the RAE, a Radio Argentina al Exterior ID when they ID because it's linked, but it's LRA-36. Our dad, good evening. Take care. Richard Wagner, anyone collects stamps? Is that still a thing today? I don't know where I put it. I got a QSL card this week from a ham with extremely beautiful stamps on the envelope, and he even put a envelope for reply with stamps on it already. Radio Kid, I like Radio Netherlands in general. I was still at tail end of the Happy Station show history, likely listening on Westminster 1970s. Wow. René Koelenbrande, nice to have you on board from the Netherlands. Friends, Shortwave Radio. Kevin Michael, 15476 is on still, Argentina, but Antarctica is there, but weak still. Well, actually, it's not Argentina, it's Antarctica. They're IDing with RAE. It's Antarctica on 15476. LRA-36 coming into Florida, Anthony France. Mark, which is Antarctica? I hear piano and Spanish on top of it. Actually, it's Antarctica. It's an upper sideband. And by the way, 15476 upper sideband. Make sure you're in the upper sideband for the listening. Walt says, yes, well, Yaesu FTDX10 is like what? Number 3 on the Shortwave list? Yeah. It popped up number 3. Arnie the DX man having a North American Pirate on 6979 USB with fairly good signal. Northeast Poland. Wow. I'm going to try it here. 6979. Not hearing anything here on 6979. Can you get... Yeah, unpowered sailboat. I know. Anthony Francis, you are really the only one who reviews radios honestly. Chest Tank was just saying your ham operator shut up. I get it because you're trying to give yourself importance with I'm a ham radio operator. Yeah, right. Please, that does not mean a thing. I actually find as a ham that a big chunk of ham operators are ignorant in their hobby. It's just... Oh yeah, I know that a lot of people live in big cities, but even on one of the, I think it's a survey. Where did we get the survey? It was a survey from one of the big world organizations in 2023, and we had talked about it. And it's still, radio is still the major way of most people in Africa still to get news and info. I mean, they could get some on their phones for sure, but radio is still pretty much everywhere. The surveys that are done, radio is still the king. And now Africa is becoming more and more messed up with tons of countries that's just not going right. I think it's going to be on the increase. Yeah, Michael, ELWA was on 4 megahertz from Africa. I heard that one back in the 80s. I had Radio Swaziland on 3025. The good old days. The good old days. Jasmine says, yes, same with Brazilian Portuguese versus Portuguese. Yeah, I mean, each country is that have the same language. Of course, it will differ. I mean, just look at the U.S. Listen to somebody from different states, from the south, from the north. It's like it's just in the same country, you have different ways of pronunciation and so on. Kevin says mine was awful, particularly above 21 megahertz. 27565 was awful on it. Okay. I'll check out the higher frequencies. I don't tune a lot of the higher frequencies with it. Maybe I've overlooked something. I'm going to check it out. 11780 Brazil kicking. Okay, Michael, my Ethon field radio has interference from my phone too. The AM chip, DSP cause, yeah. KW61, I remember the Spanish-speaking people in my old Navy ship from Puerto Rico and West US could mean trouble. Yeah, there was some music earlier. There probably is now. Yep, it's music on 15476 right now. And they do identify themselves with the RAE Argentina, but it is Antarctica we're listening to. I'll check it out, Calvin. I'll make a video this week and post it. Caller icon 6979 USB went silent. Oh, maybe I missed it. Ken Michael getting Antarctica LRE 36. They EQSL if you want, Kev Michael. I have an EQSL from them here. They EQSL usually a few days later. It's pretty quick. Pretty quick. What else do we have? She'll tell me it ain't so that most hams are only hams. Yeah. John Tampa, Florida, Tyler 836, barely audible, but getting somewhat better. Okay, Michael, there are some people thinking they know, but like my grandfather, you could not tell him about his antenna for his TV. Bob's old records, you can hear Tamazoo, North America, of course. Yep. Kamikaze 76, finally able to say hello. Been watching from my Google Home. Cool. What else do we have? Ricky says mobile coverage in Africa. I think sometimes people forget how big the continent is, and its widest point is pretty much as wide as Canada. Yep, and even here, even here, we have Canada's not. Get out of big cities and you quickly get spotty coverage. George, does the VOA still send QSLs as well as the published magazine? I don't know what they're sending out anymore. I know they stopped sending out the calendars, and I'm pretty sure they probably don't QSL anymore. Blogger Die. Well, RCA was a company. It's not a company anymore. RCA used to exist as an entity. Now it's RCA today is like it's like Grundig. It's just a name, has no relevance to what the company was, the real RCA of the past that made radios. Radio Kid, cool. I got 15476 week, but they're on the PL365. I have to hold a radio and find the right spot. Yeah, a lot of portables are more sensitive when you hold a radio, definitely. Yeah, it's very time consuming and demanding, Rob, to make a show. I mean, when somebody tells me it's like, oh, you should do a show every week. It's like, I often will reply back, so do a show of 3 hours every week and let me know how it goes. It becomes to a point where it's very demanding at some point. So for now, we're going to stay like this. At least there's a show. And I think that's the important thing. Calvin, yeah, I'll check the video and I make one myself too. I'll check that a couple of videos this week. At the same time, we'll be able to compare, Calvin. Face it, Jasmine, you are. Danielson, I'm in Melbourne, but unfortunately not hearing anything on 15476. So, here the kid says, I hear the RCA version of the SR3 was a totally different, cheaped out version and never was as good as the GE versions. No, it's. I got one here. I never use it. It's a crappy radio. I mean, it's interesting, but no, it's not. It's not what the 1 and the 2 were. Those are the real good ones. Those are the ones that performed amazingly well. You know what? You guys are giving me an idea that I should make videos and take out my SR3, my Super Radio 3, and play around with it a little bit. I mean, it's been there for ages and not being used. It's actually, I think there's an inch of dust on it. I got the Super Radio 3 for a very simple reason is that I got it at Canadian Tires, and Canadian Tires were selling it 139 or something. And I thought, no way I'm paying 139 for that radio. And one day I went to Canadian Tires for something, and there was a box of like 3 or 4 boxes of Super Radio 3s with taped on top, really taped over it, a little Grundig Shortwave 300, 100, those little Grundig portables with the rubber coating on it. $79. I had the Super Radio 3 and taped over it came with the little Grundig receiver, shortwave receiver. So I thought, okay, 75, 79 bucks for 2 radios. That's my price range. So that's why I purchased it. But I immediately saw that it wasn't great, very, very good I mean, it's sensitive and everything, but it's not what you'd expect when you hear the quality of what the GE Super Radios were. Thank you, Mark, for the tip. Do send me an email, Mark. Official shortwave radio at gmail.com. Let me know your email because you are going to be invited to the Zoom listening session. Once again, for those that weren't there before, the Zoom listening session coming up March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd at 20 hours Universal Time. It's a listening session. You need your radios. If you don't have a radio, it doesn't matter. You can follow. Anybody that does a donation through here, the super chat, in a video, or sorry, any PayPal donations sent to the email that I'm posting now, you will be invited to the listening session on March 23rd. And we'll be, through a Zoom meeting, tuning the bands together, sharing our observations, and checking out the signals and helping those that maybe are searching for whatever they're listening to or have a hard time. I think it's a good time for also learning. If you have a hard time identifying whatever you're listening to, I think it's going to be a great time to help and compare. And we'll see what different people from different areas are listening to. So coming up March the 23rd at 20 hours Universal Time. For contributors, it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be a Zoom meeting. We'll see each other. You don't have to have a camera to be there. If you don't have one, it doesn't matter. You can still be there and follow what we're doing. But it's going to be really, really cool to be together and tune the bands. Oli Unaware has the 1. He's got the 2 and the 3, and there's no comparison. Yeah, that's what I heard. It seems that the 3 is really, really crappy compared to the others. What else do we have here? Matt says, I do miss the weekly shows, but I completely understand your reasons for cutting back to once a month. I'd rather have few shows where you're fresh than many where you're burned out. Yeah, definitely. Shortwave archive. When I read the article saying DRM is the future of shortwave, I start saying, I laugh, saying that never going to happen. Yeah, and I'm amazed at some of the things that we see on. Like I listen to WWCR, Ask WWCR. It's kind of interesting in a way. They talk about different stuff, and every year they talk about the different um, participation to the radio stuff. And they're still I'm amazed that they're still convinced that DRM has some future into it. It's like you guys don't understand at all. I don't know why you're so disconnected. Explorando Vestigios. I'm following here from Brazil. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. What is the wattage of CHU? I don't remember offhand, but I think there's a couple of 5 kilowatts and one 10 kilowatts or something like that. Go on, look on Wikipedia. They have the info, and you'll even or you can even just search for CHU on Google. Offhand, I don't remember the amount of power they have on the different frequencies. Radio Kid recently won a CC Radio Plus on Goodwill auction. In my opinion, is their CC Radio is the same, if not slightly inferior to the CC Radio, except you don't have to guess the frequency on CC Radio. So thanks, Mark, for the donation. Radio Kids. Sorry, CC Radio not much better than the GE Super Radio 3, in my opinion. It's interesting because I don't do enough medium wave AM DXing and videos possibly. Oh, thanks, Blogger Die, for sharing the info now. I should take on my CC radio and my the Ethon radio, field radio also, and do some medium wave compare. It'd be kind of interesting. Richard Wagner, yeah, the Super Radio 3 is too wide. Definitely. It's hard to separate the different channels. John, Tampa, Florida, we appreciate your social and the time you spend with us. Radio Kid, the alignment trick for the CC Radio TE does not work for the Plus. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like Jasmine says, if you don't have a radio, you can use an online SDR. Definitely. That's a great idea. Thanks for the suggestion, Jasmine. I totally forgot that I could suggest that. Yeah, it's true. Kato saying, the Super Radio 3 came out after GE sold electronics manufacturing to Thomson Electronics. Yeah. Chastang says, under time work in putting a show and along with others, truly 2 shows a week. Oh, a lot of us made a lot of friends here. It's like, it's crazy how there are things I never thought of when I started doing this and doing live shows and doing the channel, and it's pretty crazy. I can see the notes that are within the PayPal donations, Radio Kid. So if, for example, in a note you'd send the email, I'll see it. No problem, as long as it's visible somewhere. For some reason, because I thought that PayPal you could always see the emails, and I noticed on the first Zoom that I made that I went into the PayPal, started looking at the people donating, and that most of them I couldn't see any email of any kind, which made me kind of, like, oh, okay, but I don't have any ways to contact these people now. So, but if you put any notes, yeah. It's going to be okay. Joseph, thank you for the donation. Much appreciated. Carl Icon is 69.45. Back to music. Kamikaze 76. You know, when I was doing the two shows, actually there's a lot of things into play here. There's the changing life. I went from doing shows where, my main focus and my main thing was doing all of this, which was fine. I didn't have that much extra to take time out of what I do. But as time went by and becoming, um, you know, a caregiver, completely changed my scheduled time. So that's where a lot of the things I backed off because it's like, well, I don't have the time I had before. And it's much different and more complicated. So, the life changes for all of us. I mean, some of us go into the hobby, get out of it because life is in the way in some way, and then might come back later. It's never changing thing. So this the choices I have to take is where is and add to all of that all of it is my income. It's my paycheck. So you start when time compresses, what do? You'll compress it and take out a little bit of what, not because you don't like it necessarily, but you'll take it out because I got to focus more on what makes my paycheck at the same time. So, that's all of this together. Um, what else do we have? What else do we have? Let me go down here. So going down here. Rob's radio channel. Wonder if less sensitive radios. I wonder if you can turn up RF gain on those. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. What else do we have? Jasmine says, "I really applaud those who put their SDR on lines for people for us for use to use. It is what got me into the hobby before I even knew what shortwave radio. I'm in my 20s, so it's not around in the shortwave's peak. Yeah, that's one thing I was actually. There's the new Kiwi SDR, the Kiwi 2, the new version, and one of the things I'd like to do is maybe purchase one and dedicate one here. I would be able to dedicate, a Kiwi SDR, and you guys could tune from here using my MLA30, for example. It's something I would like to do probably. Um, and it's something that that doesn't mean that someday I can come back to it once a week, or if time permits, if it's possible, to get more time to do other things. you know um it's definitely something that might come back someday. It's not, you know one thing for sure, and that I can reassure you guys, is there's absolutely no I have absolutely no idea of completely stopping the live shows. um but so we'll keep it at once a month, and I thought maybe at once a month, that if time happens to be there for some reason, maybe do random. That's the idea, that I did that in the past. I could be doing random, let's tune together here and there, stuff like that. So that could happen also within like the year, for example. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, I know a lot of you would like that. I think it'd be fun to have QESDR here, and you could you guys could tune. I got the multi-coupler, so I could have 4 receivers on the same antenna, so I could dedicate one port to the Kiwi SDR, and then you guys will know when I transmit with my ham station, and if you see the Kiwi SDR suddenly get not sensitive, whoops, Joel's using his ham transmitter. So it's something we're gonna check out. So, hey guys, I've got a lot of things to do tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show today. We did 3 hours and 35, not too bad. I have to edit the International Radio Report show for CKUT. So, I'll have to do that. And in the YouTube version of it, I want to try the harp tests. And also, I need to finish my utility column for the March Messenger. So got tons of things to do. And in between all of that, I got to cook some supper. So take care, guys. There's a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun to be there with you guys. It's fun to have a discussion also, discussions on what we all see as a possible future, non-future, of radio or some other means of getting our content. But it's really a lot of fun to share all of that and have you guys with your viewpoints on what's all about it and what's the future of it. And saw I'm a radio guy, but I understand that there's a lot of other technologies. Thanks, Sheila, for the tip. Thank you, Calvin, for the tip too. And thanks, guys, once again. It's much appreciated. And everybody that has donated today, don't worry. And anybody that will donate within the next, until March 22nd, will be invited to the listening session Zoom. So take care, guys. Love you all. Stay safe and see you next month. So the next show will be April the 6th. So April the 6th, put that on your calendar, 20 hours Universal Time. And we'll be live once again. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Love you all.